Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. I am currently also watching I'm watching in between recordings of a documentary on the Rothschild family dynasty, so that's been really fun. Yes, I am that history nut. Yes, you have entered into a world where we talk about history, urban legends, paranormal activity, and many other stuff like that. So, if that's something you're into, please hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, subscribe, help a girl out. Um, First of all, I want to say Merry Christmas. I hope y'all are having a fun and safe holiday season. I have a very special episode coming out next week that's gonna go perfect with the Christmas season. So please watch, guys. It will maybe already be out by the time I put this out. I'm just recording this in my bed right now, as you can tell. I'm too lazy to walk over to my desk. It's just a lot of work the more and more I try to get into it. But with that being said, why don't I jump into today's episode? Is that when you clicked on it, of course. So, if you've ever seen the show Girl Meets World, then there is a running joke about Belgium 1831. Okay, now why? And if you haven't seen Girl Meets World, it's basically a spinoff of Boy Meets World, and I thought it was pretty good, honestly. Um, and it gave, but anyway, what is this Belgium Revolution that keeps talking about why? So, but it makes me wonder, like, how many people actually know what the Belgium Revolution is, and should people know about it? I think so. As a history nut, I think that it's important that we learn from history and we know that if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat history. There's so many things I see in the world today that I see history repeating itself. And it's a sad thing that nobody's learned from history yet, or somebody wants to repeat history, or somebody's going to argue with me, oh, history doesn't repeat itself. That's your opinion. I respect that. Please, please understand that history does repeat itself. And if we don't, we're bound to repeat. Even people will repeat history. Some of us go back to the same toxic guy or girls. It just depends. But anyway, let me get to the real reason why I start on a tangent about whole on that whole topic. Now, the Belgian Revolution was a conflict that led to the succession of the southern provinces of the UK of the Netherlands and the establishment of the independent Kingdom of Belgium. Now, the people of the south were mainly Flemings and Walloons. Both people were traditionally Roman Catholic, as contrasted with the Protestant dominated the Dutch Reformed people of the north. Now, many outspoken liberals regarded King William I's rule as despotic, the and there were high levels of unemployment and the industrial unrest among the working classes. And on August 25th, 1830, riots would erupt in Brussels and the shops were looted. Theater goers who had just watched the nationalistic opera La Muette de Porcy would join the mob, and upswings followed elsewhere in the countries, and factories were occupied and machinery destroyed. Um, and order was restored briefly after William committed troops to the southern provinces, but continued leadership taken by radicals, who was taken in succession. So the Dutch units saw the mass desertion of the recruits from the southern provinces and pulled out, and the States General in Brussels voted in favor of succession and declared independence. In the aftermath of a national congress was assembled, King William refrained from the future military action and appealed to the great powers, and the resulting of the 1830 London Conference and major European powers recognized Belgium's independence following the installation of Leopold I as King of the Belgians in 1831. Now, King William made a belated attempt to reconquer Belgium and restore position from their military struggles. The 10-day campaign was fell, and the French military invention due to the French military intervention, and the Dutch accepted the decision of London's Conference of the Belgium independence in 1831 by signing the Treaty of London. So, what about the UK and Netherlands? Well, after the defeat of Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, the Congress of Vienna created the Kingdom of the House of Orange and Nassau. Um, and everything. Go away, thank you. Had an annoying little pop-up ad pop up. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. And this becoming the United Province of the Netherlands and the former Austrian Netherlands to create a stronger buffer state north of France. With the addition of those provinces in the Netherlands becoming a rising power, symptomatic of the tenor of the diplomatic bargaining of Vienna, was the early proposal to award Prussia against Napoleon's with the former Habsburg territory. When the UK insisted on restraining from the former Dutch Ceylon and the Cape Colony, it led to the siege while the Netherlands was ruled by Napoleon. A new kingdom of the Netherlands was compensated with the southern province, which is now Belgium. Now, the revolution was due to a combination of factors. The main thing was a difference of religion, primarily Catholic in today's Belgium, Protestant in today's Netherlands. In the general lack of autonomy given to both the South. What were the other factors that led to this revolution? Well, most of the institutions were based in the North, and the public burdens were unevenly attributed. Even one minister out of four Belgiums, and this was four times as many Dutch as administration in Belgium. Now, there was a general nomination in the Dutch over the economic, political, and social institutions of the kingdom. And the public debt of the North had to be supported by the South as well. The original debts were initially 1.25 billion guilders for the United Province and only 100 million in the South. Now, the action of William I in the field of education placed it under total control of the state, which displeased the Catholic opinion. Now, the contingent imposed on Belgium by the recruitment of the militiamen was proportionately high, while the proportion of the Belgians among the officers were low, and the high staff mainly composed of the former officers of the French army and the British army. Only one officer out of the six would be from the south. Most Belgian soldiers were therefore commanded by officers who were not originally from the southern Netherlands. Moreover, the Dutch language had become the sole language of the army in the United Kingdom of the Netherlands in 1823 and 1824, which would give additional grievance as part of the Francophone elites and the Walloon people who spoke the Romance dialect. Now, the unsatisfactory application of the freedom of the press and freedom of assembly were considered by the Belgian intellects and as means of control of the South to the North. Now, Belgian merchants and industrialists complained about the free trade policy pursued in 1827. On the other hand, the colony of the East Indies was experiencing a long period of revolt of the British project of competing in the Belgian production with the end of the continental blockade, and the continent was invaded by a cheap British product appreciated by the North, still mainly agricultural, but when excluded from the production of the South. Now, a linguistic reform in 1823 was intended to make the Dutch the official language in the Flemish province, and this reform was a strong opposition from the upper class, who at the time was mostly French speaking. Whether they had come from Flanders of Wallonia, but they also from the Flemish speakers themselves, who at the time, um, okay, anyway, who at the time did not speak standard Dutch, but their own dialect. And on June 4th, 1830, the reform was abolished. Now, the conservatives of the Upper Netherlands were pushed for only followers of the former. Um, state church to be appointed to the government, while the Belgian conservatives wanted to reestablish Catholic. I am not saying that word. I know I'm not be able to say that word, so we're gonna go with Catholic as a state religion in Belgium, and the coexistence of the two state religions throughout the kingdom was unacceptable on both sides. Like, how unacceptable can two religions be, right? Well, until 1821, the government used the opposition of the Catholics to the basic law to maintain a Protestant character, and the state apparatus through the civil service, and William the First himself was a supporter of the German Lutheran tradition, according to which the sovereign is the head of the state and wanted to counter the Pope's authority over the Catholic Church, and he wanted to be able to influence the appointment of the bishops. Now let's talk about the night at the opera. S and the Catholic partisans watched the excitement unfolding in the July Revolution in France, and details of which were swiftly reported to newspapers. And on August 25th, 1830, at the Theatre Royal de la Monnaie in Brussels, um, an uprising followed a special performance in honor of William's first birthday of Daniel Auber's La Malette de Portici. I apologize if I butchered that up. I barely speak English, y'all. Some might argue I speak redneck. But anyway, and this was a sentimental and patriotic opera set against Monticello's uprising against the Spanish masters of Naples in the 17th century. And um, after a duet with many audience members left the theater during the riots, in which had already begun. The crowd poured into the streets, shouting the patriotic slogans, and the brawls and violence continued for several days, with the protesters capturing key points of the city, including the Parc de la Bruxelles and the Palais de Bruxelles. And the Belgian rebels began to organize and fortify their positions in preparation for the further confrontation of the Dutch forces and everything. And these forces were rally a newly created flag and for independence and everything else. Now, what about the retreat, you might ask? Well, William the First sent his two sons, Crown Prince William and Prince Frederick, to quell the riots. Now, William was asked by the Bulgars of Brussels to come to town alone with no troops for a meeting. This he did despite the risk, and the affable and moderate Crown Prince William, who represented the monarchy of Russia, Brussels, was convinced by the Estates General on September 1st that the administrative separation of the North and South was the only viable solution for the crisis. His father rejected the terms and the combination that he proposed, and King William the First attempted to restore the established order by force. But the 8,000 Dutch troops under Prince Frederick were unable to retake Brussels in bloody street fighting, and the army was withdrawn to the fortress of Maastricht, Venlo, and Antwerp. And when the northern commanders of the Antwerp bombarded the town, claiming a breach of ceasefire, the whole of the southern provinces was incensed. Any opportunity to quell the breach was lost on September 26 when a national congress was summoned to draw up a constitution for the provisional government and was established under Charles Latour Roger in the provisional government, and then issued a Declaration of Independence on October 4th, 1830. So, how did the European powers feel about an independent Belgium go? Well, on December 20th, the London Conference of 1830 brought together five major European powers: Australia, UK, France, Prussia, and Russia. Keep in mind, this was when Prussia was still technically not a part of Germany yet. It was still part of Germany, but it was its own kingdom. So, and at first, the European powers were divided over the Belgian cry for independence, and the Napoleonic Wars were still fresh in the memories of the major European powers. So, once the French was under the recently installed July monarchy, supported the Belgium independence, the other European powers surprisingly supported the continued union of the provinces of the Netherlands. Russia, Prussia, and Austria and the UK all supported the Netherlands. Since they feared that the French would eventually annex an independent Belgium. However, in the end, none of the European powers sent troops to the aid of the Dutch, partly because the rebellions sent some of their own borders to their own borders as well. So, how does this go to the accession of King Leopold? My knee fell asleep. My knee hurts, y'all. But in November 1830, the National Congress of the Belgium was established to create the constitution of a new state. The Congress decided that Belgium would be a popular constitutional monarchy. And on February 7, 1831, the Belgian Constitution was proclaimed. However, no actual monarch is yet to sit on has yet sat on the throne. Now, the Congress refuses to consider a candidate from the Dutch ruling house of the Orange Nassau. Eventually, the Congress drew a short list of these three candidates, all of whom were French, and this itself led to political opposition. And Leopold of Saxe-Coburg, who had been considered in the early stages but dropped it due to French opposition, was proposed again. And on April 22, 1831, he was approached by a Belgian delegation of the Marlborough House to officially offer him the throne. He was reluctant at first, but then he eventually agreed to it as well. So, what about post independence? Well, King William was not satisfied with the settlement that was drawn up in London and did not accept Belgium's claim for independence. It divided the kingdom and drastically affected the treasury. And on August 2nd, 1831, the Dutch army, headed by the Dutch princes, invaded Belgium, in which became known as the 10-Day Campaign. On August 4th, the Dutch forced took control of Antwerp everything everything. So, Luxembourg would become the official border, and Germany's violate and everything. So, what does this basically mean? Well, as early as 1830, a movement started in the reunification of the Belgium and the Netherlands called Orangeism, and which was active in Flanders and Brussels. Both industrial cities like Liege also had a strong Orangist faction. Now the movement was met with strong disapproval, and between 1831 and 1834, 32 incidents of violence against the Orangists was mentioned in the press. An 1834 minister um, banned expressions of Orangism in public sphere. Now, in 2005, I just want to mention real quick that the Belgium Revolution in 1830 was depicted in one of the highest value Belgium coins ever minted, which I think is pretty cool. But that is it for this episode. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day and a Merry Christmas. I hope y'all have a safe holiday, and please be smart, please be safe. With New Year's around the corner, please no drinking and driving, guys. Please, if you're gonna drink, take an Uber, stay home, find safer alternatives than driving. But I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.